need a co-host.
How about Phil and Frank? Always available, baby.
And
always ready to go.
You're faster than satellite. How do you get here this quickly?
Sometimes a train, sometimes a plane. ESPN provides a private jet for me. That's how much I like me.
Okay then.
Moment's notice.
Private jet, huh?
Not bad.
Maybe I need to go fill in somewhere else so I can get the use of a private
New York.
jet.
We'll take it.
Welcome to PTI with Tony Too Soft to work 5 days in a row anymore. I'm lucky to be joined by our great friend from The Athletic, Frank Isola. Wow.
Finally cheering for me. Not bad, not bad, not bad.
We begin with the first game of what traditionally is the most exciting weekend in the NFL season, Colts in Kansas City to play the Chiefs. For people attracted to pro football primarily because of quarterback storylines, this is nirvana. Andrew Luck will take the NFL's best comeback story to Arrowhead to play against the young phenom Patrick Mahomes and a Chiefs team which hasn't won a home playoff game in 25 years. Frank, what other than advancing is at stake here for Andy Reid and his Chiefs?
Well, a lot is at stake because the NFL does it. It's a great way of having the playoffs where if you're the top seed, you get 2 home playoff games to make it to the Super Bowl. So right now, the Chiefs, you don't know when you're ever going to get this opportunity again. I understand it's a young quarterback. We said the same thing about Andrew Luck how many years ago? Now he's finally getting back to that level again. And look at what they've done under Andy Reid. That game that they lost to the Colts in Indianapolis, he blew a 28-point lead. Last year, they lost by 18, but I understand. It's a different quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, but it is his first playoff game. Had Lamar Jackson do in his first playoff game. Had did Deshaun Watson do. And Trubisky, who, all right, he did give his team a lead, but it wasn't off the charts.
Well, your point is very well taken, but I think there's more than that. You know, I tend to laugh at teams whose current players say, we weren't part of that history. It doesn't matter because you do know of it, because the world we live in today makes you aware of it and come to grips with it. And the Kansas City Chiefs, whether we're talking about Marty Schottenheimer, a terrific coach over a long period of time with multiple franchises and home field advantage, was unable to win. A couple times at least taken down by John Elway.
Yes.
But this is Andy Reid, a terrific coach over multiple, another franchise with a home game. His quarterback is a phenom, but I'm looking at what is that team going to be like, Frank, when they take the field, knowing no matter what they say publicly of their history, and they're facing a quarterback who, let's face it, I mean, this guy is on sort of a personal victory tour.
Yeah,
he does.
And you know what? There's a team coming in 10-1. The weather might not be that good, and the Colts could run the ball. And if you run the ball, that means you're keeping Mahomes off the field.
It's probably the best way to go about it.
Absolutely.
Who you got?
I got the Chiefs. I think they're going to break the streak. Finally going to break through, win a home game. What about you?
I think so. But it's
what always happens?
Of anything right now.
We always overreact to
the
wild
team
card
that
weekend.
won wild card weekend. We always do.
Because we didn't see those teams.
Yeah, and the team that wins, that has the bye week, there's something like 82-30.
Exactly. All right, the late game on Saturday features the Cowboys in Los Angeles to face the Rams, who lost a home playoff game against the Atlanta Falcons last year. If you haven't heard, Rams head coach Sean McVay is the NFL's boy wonder.
No.
He's only 32 years old, and he already has a coaching tree. What he doesn't have is a playoff win. All right, Michael, so all the hoopla over McVay, does it change if he loses again tomorrow at home?
It starts to change. Look, I mean, narratives don't last long in any sport now unless you win. And I'm not saying 0-2, which he would be in the playoffs if he loses this game, is the end of the world. But given the NFL's cultural fascination with McVay, and by the way, he's earned it in what he's done in the last 2 seasons, so I don't want to sound like I'm taking shots at him. But yes, if they lose this game playing at home and they do it 2 years in a row, people are going to start for the first time taking little shots, and then they become big shots.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to win home playoff games. And you look at the way this team ended the season. They went 2-2 in their last 4 games, and Jared Goff has not played well. His last 5 games, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 4 of those touchdowns were against the 49ers in one game, a game which is essentially a throwaway game. This is my thing about the Rams. They're going to have to get a lot out of Jared Goff because Todd Gurley expected to play, but the Cowboys have an unbelievable run defense.
Yeah, they do.
You're going to have to put the ball in Jared Goff's hand. I'll tell you, that game that worried me was the one that he had against the Eagles. He looked completely rattled. He had happy feet. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the quarterback and the coach in this game. You're home. This is a game you have to win.
Against 2 really good defenses, the Eagles and the Bears, he looked unsettled.
Yes.
And I think Todd Gurley, look, they're going to have to establish Todd Gurley to some degree to make play action passing work in his favor, in that team's favor. And if they don't do that, it's going to be another long day, I think, because that's what the Cowboys do best, as you mentioned, Frank. So, again, so much which doesn't get addressed in this age of analytics is the personality of a team, the personality of the coach, the personality of the quarterback. What is it you're up for? Are you ready for this huge stage you're going to play on this weekend? Analytics don't address that. Let's see what the Rams have got. They got a lot to prove. They got everything to prove in that direction.
Isn't it funny, too? It was about 2 months ago. There was talk, would the Cowboys consider making a coaching change in midseason? Yeah. And now here Jason Garrett is, they look like they're a bit of a team on the roll, running into a team that looks vulnerable. Can you imagine Cowboys one win away from making it to the NFC title game?
Yeah, and then all the pressure will be back
Absolutely.
on the Cowboys and Garrett. Let's move to Sunday, which features the Saints and Patriots, both heavy favorites, both playing at home. The Eagles have to feel really good about defending their title once again with Nick Foles leading the way. And the Chargers have never played better in the Phillip Rivers era. But teams playing at home with a bye week usually, as I said, crush it this weekend. So, Frank, do you see one upset, two upsets, no upsets?
You know what? I really don't see one. The one team maybe could be the Patriots because I haven't been able to figure them out this year. Now, under Bill Belichick in this round, they're 11-1 at home. They don't lose. They did lose to the Jets.
Was that the Jets?
Yeah, they lost to the Ravens in a wild card game.
Okay.
But in this round, they're 11-1. Bill Belichick does not lose these home games.
No.
He normally doesn't.
It's time.
But a couple of things. The Chargers are on an unbelievable roll. They could run the ball. They can throw the ball with Phillip Rivers. What worries me, I talked about the weather in Kansas City. The weather on Sunday
cold
in New England is going to be cold. So now we're asking a team, I'm not going to make excuses for the L.A. Chargers, but you fly to Baltimore, you win a game. Then you flew back home for practice. Now you're coming back across the country. In their last 3 games, they're averaging 18 points a game, their offense. Brady on the season is 27. They're going to have to score to beat the New England Patriots. They're going to have to put up more than 25 points.
I can see on a 1 to 10 scale, that game I'll go a 4 with an upset. I certainly would not be shocked, but I'm going to go to the other game. Everybody's picking the Saints, and there's every reason to pick them. They have been the best team, I'd say, 14 weeks out of a 17-week season in the NFL? I'm going to take the Eagles. I think their offensive line, the way they play, by the way, with Nick Foles, they don't even seem to play the same way or as well with Carson Wentz.
Nope.
But with Nick Foles out there, the way that team responds, that offensive line, people overlooked the defensive performance last week in Chicago against the Bears. And I think you talk about this is as close as you can get to a champion playing with house money, right? They're going to go in there as an underdog. They go in knowing they've been the champions. Foles is the straw that stirs the drink, as Reggie Jackson used to say. I know that sounds crazy considering he's not even their real starter, but I'm going to take the Eagles on the road to beat New Orleans.
Do you think what the NFL has done? There was a period where they went through wanting defensive coaches. So it was Bill Belichick, it was Marvin Lewis, Mike Tomlin. It was those kind of Rex Ryan was another guy.
Get an offensive coordinator to handle the other
Now it's all about the young quarterback and trying to get the coach. And that's why all these teams now, they want the quarterback on his rookie deal so they could
spend money on other things.
On the other roster. That's why it's win now. I mean, think about these coaches. You know, the poor guy in Arizona losing his job after 1 year. Other guys getting fired after 2 years. Yeah. It's almost like these owners now are thinking, I have to win right away. And when I mean right away, I'm talking about right now or you're out.
But you know what? I don't even know that it says that. Because if you have to win right away, why don't you have the stones to sort of go away from where your peers are and think independently and come up with something better? These are smart business people, Frank, who in their real lives, in their pre-NFL lives, were often bold and maybe even ingenious. And now they're just downright lazy.
And when you talk about no imagination, it seems like if you once said hello to Sean McVay in passing, that means you were connected to him. And now all of a sudden everybody's interested in you.
Yeah. His tree.
And 0 playoff wins right now for him.
1 degree removed from. We got to take a break from football, Frank, because the Spurs and Thunder played as compelling a regular season game last night as anyone could ask. In 2 overtimes, Russell Westbrook had a career-high 24 assists to go with another triple-double. Yet, he was completely upstaged by LaMarcus Aldridge, scoring 56 points without a three-pointer, without a dunk, too. Oh, yeah. The Spurs won for the 14th time in 18 games and continue stalking the Western Conference leaders. Frank, we're finally getting around to mentioning the Spurs Did everybody write them off too soon?
Of course. And I want to apologize to Greg Popovich for doing the same. Remember, Tony Parker left as a free agent.
Right.
And then DeJounte Murray got hurt. Manu Ginobili retires. But it's the Spurs. All these other teams around the NBA that lose all the time, they talk about, we're going to establish a culture and we're going to develop players. This is the team that's been doing it almost going on 3 decades now.
This is the sort of anti-NFL franchise, the Spurs, because Pop does his own thinking.
Yeah.
RC Buford, they do their own thinking. I think they're either last or next to last. They came into that in three-point shooting.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that the league, the only way you can play is to shoot three-pointers. LaMarcus Aldridge, I want to go back to that for a second. Frank, no dunks, no threes. This is basketball the old-fashioned way.
He had like the one little tap.
56 points in traffic.
Yeah.
In traffic the whole time, beating double teams by himself or passing out of them. And by the way, Russell Westbrook, to me, in some ways, I know he's not the MVP
had a great
right
game
now,
last night.
but he's more effective with his playmaking ability. That has evolved to a point to me that's greater than it's ever been. That one element of his game, playmaking.
And you know this from covering the NBA. You get 24 assists at home, and you're like, all right, the guys at the scorer's table, they like the player. It happened to John Stockton a lot in Utah. You get 24 on the road, that's legitimate because they're not looking to do you any favors.
That's right.
Now, they shoot the fewest three-pointers, but they shoot at the highest percentage. Last night, the Spurs made their first 14.
First 14, that was insane.
That never happened.
By the way, apparently Aldridge, you mentioned he did have a dunk. Was there a tape of that?
Yeah, like a little bunny. Okay. Not like a tomahawk.
He didn't really slam
it. wasn't Zion Williamson.
Nobody's Zion.
It was like an old man dunk.
Can the Spurs be a serious threat in the West by the time we get to April?
I'm not sure if they can win multiple playoff rounds, but I'll tell you what. I think Oklahoma City can do that because Paul George is a guy that, to me, kind of fell off the map last year. This year, he's having an MVP kind of season.
And if Westbrook keeps playing like this, those guys, Grant has become, you talk about an emerging player. I mean, the OKC has a lot there, and Westbrook now utilizes those guys better, to me, than he ever did when he was playing with Durant.
And the big Kiwi, Steven Adams, very underrated.
Absolutely.
Big bully in the paint.
Let's take a break. Coming up, what's the word for this dunk by Murray State sophomore Ja Morant?
Ja. And is it too soon for Cody Parker to be going on a national redemption tour? Mike, your thoughts on that kick?
I was thinking about Ja Rule, not Ja Rule.
That's going to be a back page headline if he plays for the Knicks.
Nicola and I have written millions of words in our careers, but we saved a few of our best ones for this game. What is first?
Nikola Jokic's pass was blank.
Did you watch Nikola Jokic last night?
Incredible play.
I mean, he and the Denver Nuggets have become must-see TV of sorts in the Western Conference.
28 and 12 they are.
I mean, he's had 5 triple-doubles. 5 this season, 3 in his last 6 games. And he throws his pass, and it's sort of unbelievable. I'm going to say, Frank, it's awakening because people are not aware of Jokic until they see something like this on national TV. It wasn't even a Turner game last night. It wasn't even on national TV. It was regional. Awakening. People need to know how good he is.
Yeah, he's going to be an all-star this year. I'm going to say it was lovely because Kevin Love, as we all know, throws a great outlet pass. This one he's taking off the backboard, throwing it the length of the court. By the way, 21 career triple-doubles ties him for second most among centers all time.
It's unbelievable.
Right with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's got a lot of basketball left in him.
I wouldn't say he's an old-fashioned center, but he isn't because he can shoot threes. He can play at the
run
top
the
like
offense through him.
He can play in the hole if they need him to. The guy's unbelievably versatile.
Great passer.
And a big part of Denver's success, and yes, an all-star. What's next?
Ja Morant's dunk was blank.
Okay, Ja Morant, who most people, again, don't know of. I'm glad we give him some exposure. This dunk, he's 6'3", and all of a sudden, he has gone from getting one Murray State offer, scholarship
offer. The only school to offer him a scholarship.
To now being mentioned in the top 5 in the upcoming NBA draft. He's 6'3", he goes almost over a 6'8" guy. I'm going to say this dunk is introducing because most people are seeing Mr. Morant for the first time.
I'm going to say it's Zion-esque because, believe it or not, Zion Williamson, and we see his dunks all the time, they were AAU teammates. What were the college coaches doing when they went to see Zion Williams play?
I know they weren't watching him.
I thought Ja Morant might have been from Paris, France. He's actually from South Carolina. By the way, his father was a high school teammate of Ray Allen. That means that I'm getting older you're old.
Not me. I'm not getting older.
Ray Allen.
That's good work. What's next?
UCLA's comeback win was blank.
UCLA down 9 with no time left at all. You know, they fire their coach. They get rid of Steve Alford, which I thought was cruel and unusual in the middle of a
mid-season change in college basketball.
And they're so far down here, you think there's no possible way UCLA can come back. You know what this is? It's vintage. Down to the fact that they're playing for Murray Bartow, the son of
amazing.
Gene Bartow, who succeeded John Wooden.
Amazing.
Going back to the baby blues, the perfect uniforms, or the jersey and the sweats, it's vintage.
I'm going to call it quacky, and that's off the Oregon Ducks because it takes two to tango. You're at home, Mike. They're up 17 with 7 minutes to go. They're up 13 with 2:30 to go. They went 4 for their last 21. You're at home against UCLA, a program in disarray.
But didn't teams like Oregon wilt against UCLA time when it was John Wooden and then Bartow and then Gary Cunningham and then who else?
Get Phil Knight on the phone. He can't be happy about that. Change that ugly court, too.
What's next?
Last one. Cody Parkey's appearance on the Today Show was blank.
Take it away, Mike.
I'm one of the people in Chicago who's trying to be nice about this. I'm trying not to act like a jerk, right? There are people like Dwayne Wade who have shown the way, Chicago and Bear fans. Says, stop. We're with this guy. He's our kicker. Stop. But then he goes on the Today Show. Why do you do that? Now you've ruined my breakfast, and therefore my word is breakfast ruining.
Yeah, I'm going with too soon. I mean, why are you doing this? This is a bad PR stunt by him. The game was last week. You want to go on in a month from now, 2 months from now? When is Khalil Mack going to be on to explain how the defense allowed Nick Foles to march down the field?
You know what?
For the go-ahead score.
You can give
3rd and 9, 4th and 2. That's your defense.
At home. You can give up that many points. You have to make a kick.
So you're blaming on the kicker, not the defense?
Yes. How many? The Bears gave up fewer points in that game than they've given up on average in that stadium all year.
All I heard was your defense. The
defense kept them in it. You got to have a kicker.
Your defense had the lead, and then gave up the lead in the fourth quarter.
They gave up fewer points than they did on average all season.
Are the Mike Singletary Bears allowing Nick Foles to drive down the field?
I don't know. Nick wasn't around then.
All right, he was a kid.
You know what else happened? Kevin Butler made the kick when he had to.
Good, that's a good reference.
Like
you know he's a Bears fan.
Eat those words, Frank. Let's take one last break, but still to come. The curious decision by the Ravens to replace their offensive coordinator.
And Andy Murray says the end is near on his tennis career.
I don't have any problems with Time to get happy, people. Happy 70th birthday, Chris Ford. He played for the first of 3 Celtics titles team in the Bird era and was an assistant for the next 2, but millennials will probably better appreciate him for being the answer to the trivia question, who made the first three-pointer in NBA history? Sorry, kiddies, it wasn't Jerry West, it was Ford, whose 73s were an unthinkably large number, but now that's dwarfed by Steph Curry's record of 402.
Yeah, the man from Villanova had 70 that year. Right now, Steph Curry has 151 threes in 30 games.
That's insane.
Different game.
It is a totally different game. A not-so-happy anniversary, Des Bryant. 4 years ago today, in a playoff game against the Packers at Lambeau, you clearly caught a pass from Tony Romo that was ruled unthinkably to not be a catch. It took until this season for the great minds in the NFL to figure out that should have been a catch, but it didn't help you and the Cowboys in that loss.
At the time, Des Bryant and I both thought it was a catch. That was a catch. Think about how that could have changed history for the Cowboys and Des Bryant and Tony Romo.
It was so easy to change.
Maybe it wouldn't be on TV.
Lazy non-thinking. Happy trails, Andy Murray. Murray's playing in the Australian Open, which begins Monday. But he said earlier today in Melbourne that he's done at 31 with a lot of wear and tear that is pushing him out sooner than he had hoped. As it stands, Murray will go out with 3 Grand Slam titles, 2 Olympic golds, and an enormous fan base, which crusaded with him the entire time.
Classy player, but he came along with Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Djokovic. Not easy. Those are great players. It's a golden era of tennis.
Absolutely. We're going to show. Let's go to the big finish. The Ravens replaced offensive coordinator Marty Mornhinweg with tight ends coach Greg Roman. Does that make sense, Frank?
If Lamar Jackson's happy, it should. Stanford running back Bryce Love tells Yahoo that he tore his ACL in the last game of the season. What are his draft prospects?
First, his draft prospects. He came back just to have another year in college. Rick Nash of the Rangers retired due to fear of another brain injury. How are you going to remember him?
437 goals, 6-time All-Star, not bad. The Red Sox and Mookie Betts agreed to arbitration to a salary of $20 million next season. Fair?
Even for him, in his 5th year, he's starting. It is. Last one, Bulls and Warriors tonight. How ugly is that going to get?
Say a prayer for the Bulls. They got the Jazz, Lakers, Nuggets still to come on this trip.
I'm saying Zion. You can say a prayer if you want.
We're out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Frank Isola. Parky. We'll get him on this show.
Let me have a
next week.
Let me have a nice weekend, all right? Think Zion.
He missed a big kick. Did you hear?